feel like I am forgetting something. Clipboard, tablet, lockbox, keys, phone. But I don't see anything that's not here that needs to be. So I guess if I am forgetting something, I'll figure it out later. So it's Tuesday. I'm out of cycle, out of sync, out of pattern. Normally I record on Monday, for sure. Just to document the transition from the weekend back into the work week. And did not make that happen yesterday. I only got out of the office once. I was tied up. Probably one of the busiest office days I've had since this new season has started. So sometime last year when we were in the busy season. So yeah, nonstop yesterday, working with had our unusual amount of work orders that came through on a Monday morning. Things that happened over the weekend. Surprisingly, none of them went to the emergency line, which was fine with me. But that and all the hail claims and dealing with adjusters and roofing companies and all that other stuff, it was nonstop yesterday. It was phone calls and emails and research on things. So got out briefly to do just a follow up on an HOA, or not even HOA, city violation for a lawn, which was fine. It was really close to the office, and it just wasn't really worth it to set up the camera and start to record when I knew I wasn't going to be able to squeeze in everything that I might want to squeeze in. But I wasn't feeling particularly motivated to do a recording yesterday. I didn't feel that drive, that feeling like I need to talk about this, I need to get this out there. So an unusual last couple days for me, but good. I feel right now at this moment powerful again, which I forgot what it's like to feel like this. I feel very in tune, very focused, and then very strong and very clear and very, it's having an effect on my physiology and my body. I feel good. And I can't put my finger on any particular reason why. I have numerous theories as usual, but nothing that specifically stands out that I can say, all right, this is where I think this is coming from. So let's backtrack just a little bit. I think I recorded on Friday, but I don't remember what I recorded about. I remember feeling anxious, not even anxious, excited about the weekend coming up and having free time, which was a new change for me. But with that, there was some increased anxiety over everything, my job, potential things that could go wrong over the weekend, and where I had been in a period of several weeks of neutrality. I felt some ups and downs and felt some benefits from that and some negative side effects. But the weekend was good. We got up early, closed up at noon on Friday, and went and got some burgers from a new it's in the back of my mind a little bit, but it's there. As the week went on last week and I was feeling better, which I was talking about as the week was going on and I was having gradual increases, my scope seemed to withdraw a little bit, seemed to back out, so I was seeing a bigger picture. And it still strikes me as fascinating the capacity for human understanding or lack of capacity. When you reach a certain level, you can see behind you, hindsight is 20/20 kind of a thing. You can see a different perspective of what you were going through, and you can see a bigger picture. But until you make advancements and alter your scope, you really can't see that. So that as we evolve, you can see certain things, and you can't identify lesser evolved situations or individuals until you evolve past them. And as you evolve past them, it becomes easier to identify, but they can't see it. Their scope is limited to where they're at, and it stands true when you're looking at yourself. Like I said today, I feel very powerful today. I haven't felt this level of connection to my true self and my origins in a long time. And feeling this, it's easy to look back at my personal calendar and note where I feel like I have been. So I have a new perspective on that. And it's kind of going hand in hand with where my scope kind of had backed out. It's no different than zooming in when you're on your computer and zooming in on a map, and you're zooming into street level and you can see the specific houses on a street, but as you back out farther and farther and farther, you see more of the picture, and you have a better understanding of how everything interacts with everything else. And it hit me when I woke up from my nap on Friday, my extended 2-hour nap, that my scope had pulled back and I was able to see a grander picture. And you remember, I mean, especially if you've been in touch with it, you remember when you felt like that before, and you're like, shit, I remember. How can I not remember this? But when you're living in that moment, it's a restriction of humanity that when you are so focused and living in that moment and you're in the details, you cannot see that picture. And I'm sure it's possible to evolve to a state where you can do both. I think that's where understanding it from a different dimension may come in. But it's when you're in tune with those moments, when you're in tune with those periods, and a lot of people will not understand this because they haven't reached that level of evolution to understand. They just have not experienced it, they're not in touch with it, and even if they have experienced it, it might be on a basis where it's maybe only been once, twice, maybe a few times in their existence. And like I said, if you're not in touch with that, you forget that you can be, you forget, and you don't have the ability to see that, you're not going to be able to relate until you hit that point again, some point in your cycle, and you're like, oh yeah, now I get it. And then you'll more than likely, because of the process of evolution, revert back to the lesser evolved state at some point and then forget. And everything over the last couple of weeks has been gradual increases, and it's been reflective in my dreams. And I've had some really, really strange ones. This property I'm going to right now is one I've not been to before. So I'm not exactly sure. I know on the map where it is, but now that I'm in here, this is very fitting to what I was just talking about. Because when I'm looking at it on the map on the computer screen, and I can see how all the roads everything I was just talking about was just demonstrated in my drive. And since I got sidetracked talking about that, I've kind of lost sight and lost focus of the bigger picture that I was trying to elaborate on. So let's see if I can rehash that and become connected to that again. So anyway, again, since I got pulled out of that train of thought and into something else and was distracted, I cannot remember where I was going with what I was talking about. I know I was talking about the gradual increases and how my dreams were somewhat reflective of that. And I think that's where I was going with it, to try and maybe expound a little bit on the dreams that I've had and what they were showing me, which is somewhat strange because my dreams, even though they've shown me and left me with some residual good feelings, have been really about being tired. The last few nights I've dreamt that I was exhausted and having trouble waking up. In the dreams, I was dreaming about sleeping and being exhausted and tired, and I don't think this is it either. I might have to bust out the phone map. I thought I had a pretty good understanding when I looked at the map before I left the office of what street this was going to be on, so I did not take any note of street names because I was pretty sure I knew exactly where I was going. And that turned out to be false, a misunderstanding. The dreams, there's been a progression in my dreams, and there's been a residual feeling when I wake up of something different, but some improvements, enhancements, something that I've been doing while I'm in that non-conscious state that is having a tremendous amount of benefit in my waking hours. And that's great. It's left me with a fantastic feeling. And last night was one of the most powerful. I don't know how or why I ended up dreaming that I was shipped overseas and into a war zone and was in the middle of active combat with people being killed all around me and really having to exist in a certain survival mode. But I did, and I mean, it wasn't, I can't say that the dream was necessarily pleasant, but there was a certain amount of accomplishment that I felt. Alright. I need to map this. I'm not getting anywhere here. Okay. So where I turned around that first time, when I said I had passed it, was almost exactly where I needed to be. So I don't know how I missed that. It did not look like there was another street, and to me it felt like I went too far, but apparently I was right on top of it. So I guess we're going back the other way. without going into any more detail about the actual imagery of my dreams, because right now it doesn't seem to be all that important. What is important is the residual feeling that I'm left with now, and knowing that something has changed. And what I want to do is take full advantage of this new perspective, this new ability to see the grander picture, to feel that connection with my true origins and understand my divinity. And that's kind of a bold statement, but that's exactly what I feel and where I'm at. And again, I need to reiterate that it's being in these states, being able to reach these states of consciousness where you can see like I am seeing now. It's hard to understand how you could exist and not see this, but easy to see how you could get caught up in being human to somewhat limiting aspects of being human that you cannot see the bigger picture. So that's where I turned around, right there. Last time. And on the map, the street I'm looking for should have been right past that, but I am still not seeing it. Here. There was no road back there, at least not that I saw, unless I drove by it twice. And yeah, according to this, I can get to where I need to go, but I am one street farther north than. This is all fitting still. The difference between scope, to give a more visual understanding. My scope and my ability to understand where it was on the map, know exactly where this property was at, was one thing. But operating a motor vehicle and navigating the streets and identifying it is just a little bit different. It's proven a little bit troublesome, as I have now had to turn around numerous times and reroute my projected path to get to where I was trying to get to. So my understanding of the situation from one scope and the other scope being completely different, but basically looking at the same thing, just from different points of view. That's a pretty good sized intersection. I don't know how I did not see that. And I'm looking for 15007, 15003. Should be this one. 15007. All right. We've reached our final destination. Okay, so having said all of that, I'm in a good spot right now, and I have no idea where this is going, but I'm seeing some things that have been troubling me with greater clarity, and I'm not allowing I'm not feeling like I'm caught so much up in the emotion of it that I'm having some inability to make a decision. So there's so many different things going on right now. One, again, I just want to kind of hit on the balance thing. Like I said, I have limited amount of time in the evenings, and I have the weekends, and I'm trying to make the most of my existence and increase my quality of life, and continue to move forward on a path that is somewhat non-traditional, considering what I'm trying to do. And for me, because I've always been an all or nothing person, finding any kind of balance has always been difficult for me, and I've been struggling with that lately, because I started losing weight last year, and I wanted to continue that, and I hit a point where I'm comfortable with my weight. I feel healthier, I feel better, I feel like I've been on a regular exercise regimen for well over a year now. Well, there was a spotty period in the summer last year where I was not. I did exercise at the beginning of the year, not important. Anyway, I established a very strong pattern, but for me, I get caught up in things very easily, and I think anybody can, especially when it comes to stuff like that. So when I'm working out and I'm seeing advancements on a daily basis, and I want to continue to move forward, I want to punch that barrier and break through and push my limits and reach new heights that I've never reached before, and honestly, realistically, maybe shouldn't technically be able to do. But I like doing that, and I like, in doing that, you have to, it's a commitment. You have to do it to be able to condition your body. It's a level of commitment that you have to, embrace and continue to attack every single day. And when you miss a day, you're like, there's guilt associated with it, and I talked about that last week. Guilt is one of the, if not the biggest soul killer out there. And but there's always that choice. There's always that contrast of, all right, well, I also want to do this, and there's the ability to forgive yourself the guilt if you're doing something that is equally worthy of that. But then there's still the loss of momentum in not pursuing something on a basis that is conducive to rapid movement. So I've kind of settled into a balance where I'm working out a few times a week, and I feel pretty good about it. I worked out last night, and I had a good workout. It was pretty strong. I had a hardcore cardio workout, and I did light chest and back, but and by light I mean I just a few sets each, but I pushed the limits. I would pushed the number of reps that I'm doing at lighter weight, and then I pushed up to 200 pounds on bench press, just so that I maintain the ability to do that, and felt comfortable with it. But the way I was going, if I was continuing on a path of doing it every single day, I would be in the mid 200s and pushing up over 250, if I was continuing to push my body at that level. But if I make that commitment, then I don't have the time to spend doing other things like making dinner or making wands or any other kind of home improvements that I want to do or need to do, as far as from a maintenance standpoint, because there's a certain level of things that we have going on in the home with plants and gardens in the yard and things that need to be maintained and cleaned on a regular basis. So you have to factor all those things in, and for me, depending on where my mind is, one thing may be more important to the other, and it may not be time in the cycle for that thing. So let's say last night I missed a couple of days of working out, and I really needed to work out, but there were some other things that I maybe wanted to do, like around the house, maintaining the yard, or spending some extra time making dinner, or getting all the equipment out and spinning a new wand, any of those things. But for me, the thing that probably needed to be done on my calendar would be the working out, and the other things maybe would be more appealing now. But it didn't make any difference. I did my workout and I felt very good about it. I called my parents and talked to them for a little bit, which I try to do at least once a week. So again, I don't feel like that's a burden, but it's a task that I need to factor in the time to do it. And again, it affects the balance of everything. Every time I add in a new task that I either want to do or feel like I need to do, I have to shift my scheduling to be able to accommodate all those things. And I felt like yesterday I did all that. The Blues were playing hockey last night, Game 7 of Round 1. They've been knocked out of the playoffs the last 3 years in a row in Round 1 after having one of the best records in the league all 3 years. And that's disappointing. I mean, if you're a sports fan, you understand that, and I try not to get too wrapped up in it, but I do. I like hockey. I like competition, and the playoffs are always a big time. It doesn't matter what sport it is. So I knew the game was on TV, and I kind of wanted to watch it, but I didn't know if I wanted the stress and anxiety associated with that, because if you're passionate about something and you get wrapped up in it, you feel that with that experience. And I didn't know if I wanted to sit through that. Plus, if I'm committing to that, then I have to not do other things. So there's a lot of things that factored into that, but everything went great. I actually put some extra time into making dinner and made an Asian style rice pilaf, and then I made a garlic broccoli chicken Asian dish to go with it, and it turned out great, tasted great. I had fun making it. I did it while I was watching the hockey game. I got a great workout in. I ended up watching the entire hockey game, which there was just a bonus that they won, and there's that exhilaration when when it's that close and you're on pins and needles and sitting on the edge of your seat, and they win, and then that's fantastic, especially considering where they've been the last couple of years. So that was all a very positive experience. And then I went to bed and unwound and then went to sleep, and then dreamt all night about being in a war zone and having to find and maintain weapons to be able to protect myself, and seeing people get shot up and stabbed up and whatever other violent associations you want to use your imagination to play. I mean, I dreamt it, so I know it was there. But again, felt a very positive and powerful new me waking up this morning, and I feel good about where I'm at, and I feel again in tune with myself and the environment around me, and the path that I have chosen, and the goals I have set for myself in this life. And I feel a rejuvenated new hope that I will be able to reach those goals, because for some time now it's really felt like that life plan, that series of goals that I have predetermined before I chose to be birthed into this world had seemed like it might crush me, might kill me, and it still might. Who knows? I think anything on the scope of what I'm talking about, let's just leave it at that. So anyway, there's so many more things I want to talk about, but I do need to fulfill my obligation to take care of these things, and talked enough. I have everything documented here that I need. So I think I'm going to call it quits for this right now, and I guess if I feel like it still when I'm driving back, I'll hit it up again.